Good morning, Patriots. JT here, Serenity Farms prepping. I just saw my first robin this morning. I'm taking that as a good sign. Despite the little snowmageddon we had yesterday, the robins were probably here for a few days already. I just saw one this morning. It's nice and sunny and kind of warm. And they were chirping. I'm sure they're looking for a spot to make their nest. Anyway, we need to talk about community survival groups, aka prepping groups, communes for the tards. There seems to be a misconception, and belonging to a community survival group is being lumped into one specific, I must move to the location where the group is mindset. That's not always the case. If you live in a small town, very small town, or a village, or a quote-unquote isolated section of a small town, even a big city, you can develop your own community survival group. It won't be quite the same as people like me with a compound, but it's way better than what you have now. So a community survival group, that's a broad term. It could mean that there's just a handful of folks who live relatively close together. Obviously, the closer you live together, the easier this all will be, because if a particular incident is an EMP, or the roads are blocked for whatever reason, or there's just massive fuel shortages, then you need to be within walking, bicycling, horseback riding distance for obvious reasons. Now, with a community survival group, it is simply a group of like-minded people getting together and pooling resources and making plans if and when an SHTF event happens. It could be something as a massive power outage that looks like it's going to last a few weeks. A minor event to you or I is a major, literal, life-threatening event to someone who's not prepared, elderly, physically infirmed, just not 100% on board like we are. So don't judge an event or how people react to that event without knowing where they're coming from, because how we talk to and deal with people are going to be a large part of who comes out of this. So, obvious advantages to a community survival group are the pooling of resources, i.e., food, water, medicines, supplies, tools, just helping hands. If everybody plants a sizable garden, barter and trade of said vegetables, fruit trees, even if it's something as simple as a group of 2 or 3 that after a grid down or whatever goes around and checks on the elderly in the group, or the sick, or those who can't get out. Maybe it's a snowstorm and you're going by snowmobile. dog sled, cross-country ski, it doesn't matter. These people will need someone to check on them. In a snowstorm incident, they may run out of fuel. They may not know that the exhaust vents on their homes have plugged. They may need to be taken out and brought somewhere for a few days and then returned. And also, this could be a medical ambulance type team where communications are still up and everyone meets at location A because someone is in medical distress. That's why it's vitally important that every group, no matter what, has at least 2 people that know what the hell they're doing when it comes to medical. If you know an EMT or a nurse's aide or people in that vein, we need them. There's going to be a time when someone might have a minor construction issue, broken windows, a leaky roof. The group responds and fixes it. Okay, now, this type of community survival group is the basic kind. It's just people helping people. There's still the threat of outsiders who didn't prepare and likely even scoffed at you wanting in on the action, and they're probably prepared to do whatever it takes for them to get the action. So security must be part of your plan, along with a large portion of secrecy. All your group members only need to know who the other group members are. And there needs to be a quote-unquote phone tree, or maybe a walkie-talkie system. You can buy all the cheap ones, even if everyone's within 3, 4, 5 miles of each other. Designate channels. Designate code words. Anybody can listen in on the regular walkie-talkies, so you've got to be careful when you talk. All you need to do is use a 1 or 2 or 3 word code, and the other members of the group can spread that, and they all know what it means, but no one else does. You still have to take maximum precautions. Now, a community survival group where everyone is going to relocate to a central location is optimally the best case scenario, because there is safety in numbers. If you are part of a group, find out how many prospective members are going to be in that group ultimately, because at some point there can be too many, in my opinion. When you have too many people involved, yeah, there could be a good variation of ideas, but there's also going to be those that are continually stirring the pot, think they know a better way, and could down the road, even innocently or not so innocently, sabotage the entire plan. That can happen with a 4-man group, but the more people you get, after, depending on your acreage and how it's all going to be spread out, I'm going to be around 12 to 16, 18, and that's probably the limit. Now, the advantages of everyone relocating to the central location are everyone should be contributing to a general fund, whether it be with materials, food, definitely food. There may even be a small monetary fee per month that all members contribute, and then a smaller group is going out and buying tools, medicine, supplies, food, water filtration, yada, yada. My particular situation, I have a large barn where members can bring two large totes full of clothing. I recommend to the people that one is winter clothing, winter, fall, and one is spring and summer. You don't know when an SHTF is going to happen, and you need to have the clothing there for our area. Okay, now, I am also trying to get everyone who wants to be, well, if you want to be part of my group, you have to have lodging. I am not an HOA or public housing. It'd be great if I had places for everyone who wants to be in to stay, but I don't. I'm just one man, and I've invested thousands of dollars to get what I have for those that I'm taking care of. So people could buy simple Amish sheds. Yes, they can be $4,000 or $5,000. I have a limit on size. I'm limiting 10 by 16, but if it has a loft, that's even better. You have to know who's coming with you when you come to my property, because you are responsible for them. That means if you think there's 2 of you and you show up with 4, you're all sleeping together and you're feeding them. They can contribute to the general fund, but you can't tell me you're 2 people, plan for 2 people, and then show up with 4. We're not prepared for that. I understand emergencies happen, and that very situation is likely to happen. But it can't be every person. You always prepare for twice as much time as you think you're going to need. So if you're 2 people and you're prepared for a year and you got 2 years worth of food and 2 siblings show up or children, you got a year's worth of food for them. Then we deal with it during the first year. Hopefully it's a minor SHTF and we continue to accumulate. But the rest of the group is not contributing monthly at their own expense to feed every Tom, Dick, and Harry who wants to show up. The rules have to be stated, and the members of the group have to acknowledge, even sign, and follow them. There has to be order. Everyone will thank you later. So, I recommend at least 2/3 of any group are men. It's the way it is. There has to be security patrols. There's got to be construction. There's got to be cutting firewood. There's heavy lifting. There is lots of stuff that men can do that women can't. On the other hand, there's lots of things that women can do that men cannot. But a survival community, in my opinion, is going to have to focus on traditional roles, because we are not going to have all the modern conveniences that we do now that kind of level the playing field in certain situations. Yes, if you've got a woman who can do what a man can do and she wants to do it, good. If you've got a man who can't quite pull his weight, gets injured, does this, does that, then he'll have to do what the ladies are doing until he's physically fit to do his own duties, or that's what he gets relegated to. Sometimes it just got to be the way it has to be. But overall, 2/3 is my recommendation of men. So if you've got 12 people, 8 should be men. If it's 6 couples, think about upping your membership or figuring out who can do what. Sometimes you just got to go with what you have. I got a lot of acreage that has to be covered. It won't all be covered all the time. Certain area, blah, blah, blah. I can't give away all trade secrets, but things are being done. So people need to have their own shelter. If they want to make payments on an Amish shed, those are quite manageable. Those sheds are even, quote unquote, temporary. They're on skids. That means if somewhere down the road a person wants out, they will have the option of the group potentially taking over the payments on a shed, buying it outright, or saying sayonara, and the person is responsible for getting it removed on their own. I got a couple people that have travel trailers, campers. They have them strategically located on my property, and they understand they need to do what they need to do to prepare those for wintertime living as well as the rest of the season. It can be done. It may sound difficult, but it's really not as bad as people think if you do it. I am not going to have tent people, although I have a tent that I put a wood stove in, and it would probably work. But in the event it doesn't, those people would have to go somewhere, which likely you're not going to have the space. So summertime, if there's some people that want to sleep in their tents instead of whatever, that's fine. They're going to load them up, fold them up, and put them away during the winter. Okay, one thing with all groups of any kind that has to be considered, thought of, is if someone is leaving the group for any reason, their choice, your choice, no choice. It doesn't matter why they leave. What matters is after they leave, they know where you are, and very likely they know pretty much everything about the area or the people in it. This could mean a couple very bad things, as you can imagine. Just like any movie you've ever seen, someone gets disgruntled, breaks the rules, gets kicked out of a group, and a few days, few weeks later, shows up with a merry band of scumbags because they're mad at you and they know what you got, and they're going to come take it because they're too freaking lazy to do what they needed to do. And odds are that's why this person likely got kicked out of your group. They either didn't like taking orders, didn't believe anybody knew what the hell they were doing and they know better, too lazy to do their work, lost everything they had brought with them for various reasons, which would not mean they were expelled. If I have 8 cabins on my property and one of them had a tragic fire and the people escaped but they lost what they had there, we're not kicking them out of the group for that. We're going to do everything we possibly can to make sure they stay and that they're safe and that they're fed and have clothing. Exactly why I have a separate couple storage areas for people's property. Just like we do now with our prepping. We do not keep all our eggs in one basket for obvious reasons. Theft, fire, flood. You just never know. All right. So don't think now there's okay, sorry. Let's do a combination of the two community survival plans. There's a compound 5 miles from you, but you're in a little town where you've got the townspeople or at least a handful of them, all doing the things that are necessary to take care of each other for a while in your town. But eventually, you've got too many neighbors that are going to come wandering around for whatever reason. Now, maybe you want to stay in your own house until... I have all my people that are currently in my group have structures on my property with some stuff there. So I see some come up all the time. They'll call me, they come up, they add, they delete, they do something, they ask some questions, we get together on some things. It's a work in progress. You're going to have some people maybe that are going to say, okay, I want to do this and stay in my own little group in town or 5 miles away. But if it gets this bad, can I come up? Once again, that's going to be a decision that you have to go over with your group. Do you want these people knowing where you are? But if they're part of mutual aid, then it could be very important. But what are they going to have for supplies, places to live, etc., etc.? If they're walking with a backpack to get to you, they're not going to have a year's worth of food. You see how this is all going to work? So it's something you got to think about. Now, I have a couple people from the local community that have stuff in storage at my place, but they don't have a structure. They're still on the fence. Okay? They understand if they have to show up, I might not have any place for them to shack up. Now, there's room in one of the barns where they can at least lay down on a bed of hay with a sleeping bag. Maybe I'll put a couple barrel stoves in there and a small roof and try and work that out for people who show up. But you got to make the decision whether you're going to allow it in the first place. Because you can't have people coming and going. Because sooner or later, someone's going to notice. All right, I didn't want to go this long, but it's getting critical for time, money, everything, and people have to make decisions. All choices, consequences. That's all I got for now. JT, signing out.